They switch between witnesses there inside of the courtroom. Let's bring in National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar, who is standing by watching this testimony unfold in this mass shooting trial. Michael, always difficult when you have to listen to a survivor recounting what happened in these harrowing moments. But I gotta ask, tell me what parts of this testimony you think are going to go to this case in controversy, because we've got a defendant who is saying, yes, I did it, but I was insane at the time.
I was a little bit baffled by that testimony. It was kind of boring. I didn't understand what the purpose of it was. Even this defendant was initially deemed to not even competent to even stand trial. We know what the case in controversy is, which is, was he legally insane when he committed these or not? Is he going to spend the rest of his life in a detention facility getting mental health evaluations or not? Is he going to be part of general population or not? There's no defense. This is a very emotional type of witness talking about his PTSD. This seemed like the most stable type of person to ever go through something like this ever again. I was a little bit baffled. I don't know, maybe because the prosecution doesn't really have much else before they get to the experts. But I want to get into the guts of the case. I want the jury to see, hey, listen, was he sane or not? Is he even did he understand or appreciate the wrongfulness of what he's doing or not? I will say I'm following this case very intently, and I'll tell you why. I have some very, very, very deep beliefs about the legal, the defense of not guilty by reason of insanity. I have many problems with the way we handle it in the jurisprudence system in our country, right? It starts with the nomenclature, the whole not guilty by reason of insanity. I think that we need to change that around, because if this person is not deemed, if this person fails on his attempt to be found not guilty by reason of insanity, I don't know who will. This person is, it's almost like he's watching the trial himself. On a prior witness, when they were describing the person, he was looking around, he looked down at himself, looking as though he was watching the trial with everybody else. So that's really what the crux of this case is. That's the only crux of this case. There's nothing else that matters. We already know that it happened. We know who did it. He did it. So I was just baffled by this witness. I really have no idea what relevance or what impact this witness will have on the ultimate outcome. So I was a little bit baffled.
Yeah, well, Michael, good points. We're going to just have to wait and see. Let's bring in National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar to talk about this motion that was granted for a change of venue. And Michael, any thoughts? The family is saying that they weren't happy that the state didn't bring up some witnesses. We saw defense counsel really put forth a lot of witnesses here, and even in the analysis from the judge, I was just taking a look at it, he really pinpointed and went through all of these witnesses that defense counsel put forth, really talking about the evidence that was presented and how that impacted his decision to grant this motion.
Yeah, I disagree with the family's opinion on all points, period. I think the judge made the right decision. What the family has to understand is that just because they moved the venue, that means that Bryan Kohberger is going to be walking the streets. The evidence against him is overwhelming, and what this judge is worried about, and what he should be worried about, and why he made the right decision, is having this case come back on appeal after a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year ordeal, and then have to do it all over again. That's what this judge was looking for. He had an eye towards whether or not this would, I don't know what this judge's mindset is towards Bryan Kohberger. I'm going to assume he hates him, right? And if you hate a person, and if you've already made a decision that this person needs to basically be put to death, right? You don't want this, you don't want to give this person a reason to escape. So I disagree with the family. The judge made the right decision. And here's, I thought the judge would not make this decision. I thought he'd make a mistake and keep the judge there, because these judges, people have to understand, are elected officials. It's kind of disorienting to think about a judge as thinking about politics, but he's got to look towards his reelection. He might not get reelected. He might not be a judge anymore by making the right decision. That's courage. He made the right decision. Bryan Kohberger's case needed to be moved. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? This is 2024. You're not going to get an impartial jury wherever you go if you're Bryan Kohberger. And everybody knows everything about this case. This is an international case. Everybody knows about it. And the county where the case was in right now has become a shrine towards the murders, right? If this case was not ripe for a venue change, then we should just do away with the whole venue change theory, because what's the point? There's no point. Like, if this case was not moved, there was no point in even attempting to move any other case unless you were going to find a judge who would have the courage to make the right decision. This judge had the courage, made the right decision. I'm proud of him. I didn't think he would. I was wrong. Happily, he made the right decision. I disagree with the family. I think this case should have been moved, and it was moved.
And now this case is no longer going to have this judge, so we will see who the Supreme Court there in Idaho assigns to this case. I want to go back to the state's argument, because the prosecution did not want this case to be moved out of Latah County, so they were in step in that regard with the family. Let's listen back to that motions hearing where the judge was hearing those arguments, of course, before this order.
Finally, since we are talking about the interests of justice in the convenience prong of the rule, it is completely appropriate for the court to also consider the fact that most of the victims' families, not all of them, but most of them, live closer to Latah County than they do to Boise.
One of the other things that the family had an issue with in their statement was the judge allowing Bryan Kohberger to wear a suit. You saw him in that video, Michael, wearing a suit during these hearings, when oftentimes it's not a trial, there's no jury. They're not required to wear, or the protection of the prejudice against them, protection against that in front of a jury isn't present at a hearing. So sometimes we see them in jail garb in these pretrial hearings. Your thoughts on that issue that the family has had with the judge's handling of this?
Here's my response. They said it while they were holding pitchforks outside the courthouse, right? This is the difficult part of this process, right? If I was a member of that family, if I had a loved one in this, I would feel the same exact way, which is why society needs to yank that decision out of my hands, right? This society, the people who are not inflamed by the situation, need to be the adults in the room and make the right decisions, right? In terms of the convenience prong of this, give me a break, prosecutor. That prosecutor, that DA, everybody also knows politics play into it, because the DAs in these counties also run for election. They had to take the position they had to take. Imagine the DA would have agreed with the defense on the moving of this. It would have been just complete hell outside of that courthouse. So they had to take that opinion. But in terms of the convenience part, we're talking 1865. It was inconvenient to move a trial from one county to the other, because you might move it to a county where only 7 people live there, right? We're in 2024. It's just as convenient to have this trial, 30 minutes away, an hour away, as it is where it is right now. It comes back to having this thing come back on appeal. The Bryan Kohberger case is just different. It's unique, and it has captured the zeitgeist. That case had to be moved. If that case wasn't moved, I don't think any case. What other case would be moved at that point, if not this case? So I disagree with the family. I disagree with the DA. I know they had to take that position. The judge made the right decision, and he's going to pay for it, by the way. He's going to pay for it politically, and that's how you know he made the right decision.
Michael, when you take a look at the reasoning of the judge, when he wrote it in the motion, he said the ongoing spread of prejudicial misinformation, rumors, and patently false theories of the case on social media impacted his decision.
Absolutely. And when the defense attorney put out that poll, I think a year ago, in the community, asking them questions, and then the DA came in and said, you can't ask these questions. Well, I'm asking questions about groups on social media. I don't want to mention names, but groups where they have these theories of the case where it's just completely wrong. It's just awful, and the judge had to contend with it. And if I recall, and I'm being facetious, I know this happened. The judge was siding with the DA, and he had a verbal altercation with the defense attorney in his courtroom. He didn't sanction her, but he ridiculed her, right? So I disagree that this judge has been in favor of the defense. What are they talking about? I recall him, at least on 2 occasions, bringing her into the courtroom and just verbally dressing her down and, just insulting her intelligence. And he even would sit back in the chair the way you would when you're being sarcastic and say, you don't understand how the law works. You don't understand how any of this works. You do understand that you are just wrong completely. I remember this, right? I remember being personally offended at the way he would talk to her. So I don't know why people are saying that this attorney has been in favor of the defense. Quite the contrary, right? And so she was the one who brought up all these theories online, and she's right. Right. And at the end of the day, these theories, they don't follow county lines. These social media groups, they don't follow county lines. Somebody in Ukraine could be reading these posts. So it's not like moving it from one county to another is going to, Brian Koberger is just going to walk out, is going to walk in and just lie to, the country bumpkins in the other county. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. The judge made the right decision. I'm proud of him. If I ever meet him one day, I'll walk up to him and tell him, dude, you did it right, good for you.
This is an emotionally charged case. It's impacted so many people, all those students on that campus, the people who knew and loved those 4 students who were slain. So we can understand where this statement comes from.